up, get out right out of your bed, that's your quicksand. Getting rid anxiety and head, you can fix it. Rid of stigmas, all of them you said, we ain't listening. Just remember, try to do your best, you can win this. Maurice Benard, State of Mind.
Hey. It's Sunday, State of Mind. Thank you for coming. We're trying, I hate to push for subscriptions, but if we can get to 200, it would be great. And if we get to 1 million, I'll throw a party for all the subscribers. Not a big party. No, don't hold me to that, please. My wife will kill me. But anyway, please just tell people boom, boom, boom. Anyway, who do we got today? Today it's somebody who I've worked with closely. I think he's one of the best actors around in daytime, especially because that's what he's done the most. I think he's underrated. I don't know why he's underrated. I don't know why. Because he has everything. The skills, the looks, the edge. And I remember playing a story with him where Sonny again went off his medication. And I'm going to talk to him more about it, but it was a very intense story. And he was just right there with me, man. Just right there with me. I'd get a script and I'd be like, okay, this is going to be a fight. And it always was. His name is Rick Hurst.
How are you, brother?
What's going on?
Get me start weeping already, right? Like, we're getting right there. It's going to be the Jerry Maguire moment. It's like, what's wrong? $62 million, just too much to deal with. Thank you, bro. That's so sweet of you.
Thank you for being here, man.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Well, I guess we can start with, like where you grew up and bring it up to that, and we'll get into whatever comes next.
Yeah, I'm born and raised New York boy. I was born in Queens, in Woodhaven.
But how come you don't have an accent?
$8,000 worth of training, I better not have an accent. Oh. If I want it, it comes up, trust me, where I live now.
Wow.
Yeah. You've seen it. It's less of a, a long accent, like, Ronnie Marmo, right?
Yeah.
Marmo looks at me and he goes, "You're not a real Italian." I'm like, fuck yourself. Can you say that? Can I curse on this? Oh, good. It's like immediately I'm thinking to myself before we're coming
here.
I'm
YouTube.
like, can I curse? Yeah, right. It's YouTube. So, I grew up in Queens, and my mom's Italian, full-blooded. She came from Italy in '56. My dad was here, German, English, Scottish, mixed mutt,
Oh.
And his dad is from Brooklyn originally. My grandma, his mom was from Nebraska, of all things. So I kind of had I had Midwestern people-ish, New Yorkish people, and then, full-blooded Italian. So, it was an interesting grow up. I was there till 6.
Are you the only?
I'm the only. I'm an only of an only. Wow. Italian.
Wow. Yeah.
Boy.
Wow.
So, all of that kind of comes together for you. You have a very, for me at least, I've always had a very deeply connected, part of me to my family. Like, it's it. It's like
I know, but like me, but I know you, and that's who you are.
That's how I think. That's how I feel. Every decision, every move, every sort of, if it's something that I have to consider for myself, where it goes to my children or to friends, all relationships are based in that, right?
Yeah.
Like, like you, it's like we welcome everybody in, right? In my case, I always would welcome everybody in to my family, and hopefully they would not do anything to, cause me to say, "Hey, listen, there's no respect there. You don't kind of get it. Love to be able to have you stay, but no, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And I didn't learn that until later in life. But so yeah, 6 years old, my folks split up. Dad and mom just couldn't do it. It was just sort of an untenable situation. My father, unfortunately.
How was divorce for you?
Divorce was rough. That sucked.
How old?
6.
So at 6, what does? I mean, you're 6, so you know that it's hard.
Yeah.
And there's. Did you blame one or the other?
No. You want to know? Interesting thing, and with only children especially. For me, at least, I did not blame either of my parents. I blamed myself.
That's the tough part.
That's right. That's it. But honestly, I did. I remember having vivid dreams where, and I shit you not, and I've told my mother this a million times, and she knows. And of course, after years of kind of working through that and understanding, I was trying to understand why that two people who I loved did not love each other any longer and didn't want to be together.
Ooh.
So it was just obviously at 6 years old, you try to comprehend that. It doesn't come into play, so it must be me. And as a result, I had this, like I said, recurring dream where I was on the top of a station wagon strapped to it, and I was driving away, and both my parents were waving at me.
Oh.
So, you know, it was something that genuinely I thought, if I was not in the picture,
I
maybe
got chills.
it was them there, you know?
Wow.
And, you know, I had that for a very long time. And then later on, you know, I lived with my mom, obviously. We moved to New Jersey, and it was she and I for 4 years. And, you know, I visit my father. My father was, unfortunately, I say this, I don't like to say this because it sounds like it's past his judgment, and, you know, but at that time, very much a hopeless alcoholic. There was nothing that really, and I always described my father later in life as somebody who could not deal with the injustices in the world, right? Hence why he drank. And, you know, he was a terribly affectionate man. Like
Terribly
yeah. Like,
now you're affectionate.
I'm very affectionate.
And I'm not.
Yeah.
But I
You
am.
are with me.
I know, but it's not cool.
Yeah. But that's something. But we were always very affectionate in my family.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
And my dad was very much that way, and he wore his heart on his sleeve. But like when he would drink, and he was always what was called a sort of a term called a good time Charlie, and his name was Charlie.
Okay.
And so everybody loved him. Everybody loved being around me. He was very infectious, you know. But if he wasn't drinking, he didn't feel that way.
Shit. Yeah.
You know, and he was very successful. When I say that, he was working for a company, TWA, Trans World Airlines, back in the day, right? And he was 27 years old. He was the youngest supervisor in the company. He handled all of John F. Kennedy Airport in New York. He handled all of the baggage for Kennedy Airport. I remember, like when after they split, I would hang with my father, and it was a very cool thing. I drove around in a little TWA station wagon on the tarmacs under 747s. So every time, like traveling a lot now, obviously being back on the show, airports for me are very, there's a lot of memory. Jet fuel of all things, right?
Yeah.
Like that's what sort of stirs that memory of him and being with him, you know, on weekends and whatnot. So,
but at young age, especially at that time, there's no therapy or anything. No. We didn't talk about. Nobody said anything.
No.
And the truth is,
he could have benefited from it.
He could have. You could have.
Yeah.
Your mom could have.
Yeah. My mother did go to bed.
Oh.
My mother had a whole, you know, slew of other things that she was dealing with, obviously, and she came from you know, unfortunately, my grandfather was of the old country, right? And it was, you know, the children should be seen, not heard kind of mentality.
Yeah.
And he was, you know, he was a physical man. I will say that. And my poor mother had to endure a lot of that.
Oh.
But at the same time, my mother had the wherewithal where she did not want to be in a relationship that she was going to be, you know, dominated by somebody who wasn't able to deal with their own situation.
I
right?
get you, yeah.
So, and she didn't, and for me, she took him back a couple of times for me. So, I mean, I remember my father, I don't remember this. My mother said when I was 2 years old, like he would be wrapped around a toilet and just, passed out. And I would go to the bathroom in the middle of the night and I'd ask, I say, Mommy, why is Daddy, excuse me, why is Daddy, on the floor? She said, he's just resting, honey, because obviously, she wants to protect me. But there was a lot of that. And I idolized my father so much.
Yeah.
And still, to this
Same
day,
with
I
me,
think about him. And, as a lot of men do.
Yeah.
Growing up.
Yeah.
And
But isn't that love interesting? Because I think we love them because, without getting into my dad, he hit me with the belt and whatnot.
Sure, yeah.
And there's things that the parents do, but almost in those days, you can see it as they didn't know any better.
right, exactly.
If we did something now,
Forget it.
and we should be because we know better,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Rick?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, but back in that, again, it's not to justify it. It's just,
No.
it's just unfortunately, the normal behavior,
Right.
the normal way of things, how a household operated, how relationships with men and women operated. And, thankfully, like I said, my mother, she's one of these individuals who, I'm an only child as well, just picked herself up. And she was the one who finally went to therapy. And
Damn.
and she had an amazing therapist, I'll be honest with you, who didn't let her get away with anything. Yeah, very lucky. Very lucky. But she got through that period. She went through a lot of sickness internally and whatnot. And then I watched this at a very young age. I remember when my mother was going through a lot of that, we became sort of like, for 4 years, we were like just each other, right? Akin to like a married couple, only it's mother and son. And, I had my responsibilities that, of course, I waited till the last minute to do every time. But at the same time, I learned very much how to appreciate that. And my mother was really trying to be all things to me, right?
Yeah.
Because I'd go visit my dad and I'd come back, because we moved eventually, and every time I go see him, he was usually kind of on benders and whatnot. He had a girlfriend at the time, and, things that I remember that were really positive about my dad, and I try to, kind of latch onto those more, is like the moments when we'd go fishing. He was a huge fisher. Like being out on the ocean now is a very big thing for me. I remember like my love of the Eagles, like you and I.
Yeah, I
go to
love
that,
the
man, dude. You saw me. You were like, geez, you know every song. And I'm like, yeah, it's very much. It's my soulful place. That band, and because I shared those memories with my father, and but unfortunately, later on, I got a chance to really see, who he was and what he was, and I had that 17-year-old breakout moment where it was fuck you all day long and screaming. I remember screaming at my father for an hour at a time, just about all the things I was so angry about with him, and that he just, like, why couldn't you fucking like get it together, and you still don't, and on and on and on. I was on Guiding Light at the time when I had moved back to New York from here. And he was, we had been estranged. Like, I was there in New York and we weren't talking. We weren't seeing. But my mother said to me, and this is one summer, I can't remember exactly when, but she said to me, I was like, she says, have you talked to your father lately? And, I'm like, I'm not fucking talking to him. Are you kidding? I don't know, why do I want to talk to my father? He's got to call me.
Yeah.
She goes, that's your father. As my mother can, just gets right inside of me and says, in your heart why you feel this way. Don't let that be what keeps you from moving forward, because that'll eat you up.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I had to think, fuck, all right. So I would call him and we'd come together. We came together for a couple of years.
How difficult was that? Those moments?
you know,
Uncomfortable?
The humility of it is what really
Right.
gets you, right?
Right.
You feel like you have still so many things to say. And it's like, it's hard to put that aside. Yeah, uncomfortable wasn't even the word, but it was because you still, I still had that, it's your dad. And I always felt like, you know, small in front of him.
Yeah.
And because he was bigger than life still. And where that changed, I had started training when I was on Guiding Light, and after Donna was pregnant with Nick, I started training in karate out there with the Tiger Showman's group. And there was a level that gave me, I guess, that self-confidence, which is funny because I've always felt that, you know, I was always very ambitious. I was always very driven. You know, I faced my fears, but, you know, I faced them and would shrink and kind of develop through that. But I truly, through training, was where I started to, you know, face that fear and realize that you're gonna take fucking hits. It's regardless. You're gonna be there, and you know full well you got no choice. But it was a Thanksgiving at my father's house, and I think I got my belt at that point, my black belt at that point, and my grandmother was there. My grandfather had passed away. His father had passed away, and I heard this argument in the other room, and I came in, and he was literally he wasn't berating her, but he almost was just pleading, talking about his father to his mother, and she couldn't take it. She couldn't hear it. And I pulled him aside. I just took his shoulder. I said, "Pop," I said, don't do that. Don't do that. And he goes, "Oh, you think you're a big fucking, what are you, a fucking black belt now? Huh? What are you you want to fucking take me on?" And I'm like, and I just looked at him and I shook my head and I said, "You are a piece of work, you know that?" And he goes, "You mean a piece of shit?" And I heard that. I went, this is what this man thought of himself his entire time. And I went, no.
Ooh.
No. I said, no. I said, I feel sorry for you. And it was very hard. There's 2 moments that I regret in my life with my father where I felt like I hurt his feelings deeply. And it was because, and obviously it was because, it wasn't because I was trying to hurt his feelings, but it was because I just was trying to reach him so desperately.
Yeah.
So desperately. The second time, unfortunately, was at my 30th birthday party. Big surprise, you know. And the drinking thing, I always we made a contract with each other, tried to, where I said, you know, "Pop, listen, I understand. You got to do what you got to do. But if you could just not drink when you're with me, right?"
Yeah.
Not a big deal, right? Well, we're at my 30th birthday party. I was out of town. I got there late. I was on appearance or something like that. I come walking in. Everybody's done. I put it together. Everybody's there. Big deal, right? You know. And a lot of the people that were there at the time, Peter Simon, for instance, was an actor on Guiding Light who I really loved and was very much kind of a father figure in that way. And I remember seeing him, and I was talking with my father, came up, and he was lit, but he was uplit, like he was excited.
Yeah, yeah.
And I said, and he goes, you know, "Hey, Rick, you know, introduce me to some of your friends." And and Peter, who known my relationship with my father, kind of took my shoulder lightly and pulled me. And I still to this day remember going this way and seeing my father's face just fall because he saw the disappointment in my eyes.
Yes, yeah.
And he, you know, and I didn't want him to feel that, but I did, you know, what are you going to do at that point? So those are those times. But
were you there when he died?
No, I was not. I saw my father 6 months prior to his death. And at that point, thankfully, I had asked him to come out to LA. And it was his birthday. It was December 27th was his birthday, excuse me. And I was calling him, and he wasn't answering. And, you know, I knew that usually meant he's off on a bender. And I I finally got a hold of him. I think it was the next day. And I said, hey, what's going on? I said, I tried to get a hold of you yesterday. Wish you a happy birthday. And he was like, yeah, you know, I was kind of fucked up. I just, you know, I can't, I just, you know, I said, so what's the deal? You going to come out or not? And he goes, yeah, look, I don't think I should come out. You know, you're not going to want me. You don't want to have me. And I said, well, what happened? He goes, well, you know, what had happened was he went out, he was hanging with some younger guys. He loved golf. He was actually an incredible golfer. Out playing golf with some younger guys. And, you know, he was drinking, but he also was smoking a little weed, which he never did.
Yeah.
He never did. And it really flecked him up. And he ran his car into a telephone. Thankfully, he wasn't hurt again, you know. But it really kind of shook him. And that embarrassment was there with me. And I said, he says, I just don't think, I said, Pop, just come out, okay? Just get on the plane. I don't give a shit. Just come out. And he said, all right, well, I'll think about it. Later that day, he literally calls me. He says, yeah, listen, can you pick me up at the airport? I'm going to be there in a little bit. And I went, what? And he goes, yeah, I'm coming in tonight. I went, sure, okay, great. And he got there late flight. Obviously, I think it was like 11:30 something. And I got there a little bit late. And I arrived. He was in baggage. He was the only guy left there. And he turned around and, he was just ashen. He looked bad. He was not ashen, excuse me. He was yellow.
Yeah.
You know, the jaundice from his liver.
Yeah.
So shot. And I just said, welcome to LA, Dad. And I gave him a big hug, took him to the house. We stayed up for a couple of hours. It was like, I don't want to say like 4:30 in the morning before we went to bed. Got up the next morning. The boys were very little. Nick was 10, Cam was 4. And they were all excited because Granddad was coming. And they were peeking in. And I said, guys, let Granddad sleep and whatnot. Nick, as he would, just snuck in there, stood over Granddad until he woke up because they wanted to make him pancakes. So he did. He was here he was in LA for 4 days. I took him out. We did a lot of cool things. I was working at that time on Y&R briefly, and I brought him down there. He had never been to set. He was at my first Emmys where I won in New York, and I have that on YouTube, thank God,
Right.
as like a commemorative.
Right.
But he had never seen me work on set. And he came down. I was working with Josh Morrow at the time, and we were cutting up on set and whatnot, and we were having a good time. And he just was marveling at all of it.
Yeah.
And he says, you know, I love the way you guys banter, and you know, you like get it. He said, you look like you're having a good time. I was like, yeah, Dad. I said, I love doing this. I said, this is my life. This is what I've been doing how many years now? So we got to see that, went back home. We went out to the Four Seasons one night, all of us, me, my mom, who we'd been divorced for many years, and my stepdad, Shelley, and he was all of us together, Donna. We went to, it was like a little side bar room over at Four Seasons. I can't remember what it was. So we're all sitting there, right? He brought his suit, the only suit he ever owned that I bought for him, a 3-piece suit, in case we went out. So he had the suit on, and he's sitting there. And, you know, he's a little nervous because, you know, he's in a bar situation. And he was...
Oh, shoot.
He was being respectful.
Yeah,
I never said anything to him.
Right.
I never asked him, hey, Dad, could you blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I just was like, look, I'm good with where I'm at. You're you. I love you. I wish you didn't, but what am I going to do at this point, right?
Yeah.
You're a grown man. I'm a grown man. He, my mother, in her inimitable way, leans over and just kind of says, Charlie, and she says, it's okay if you want to have something to drink. Nick's not going to be pissed about it. And he goes, well, I like, you know, I see some of those coffee drinks. Those are really, they're like sweet, because alcoholics, they like sweet. He goes, it's something sweet. So he got an Irish coffee. He sipped it and was done. Didn't do it, didn't drink anymore.
That was it?
That was it. That was all.
And then?
And then he gets ready. He goes, we're all done, and it's all fine. And he and my mom were talking, and, you know, I come to find out that, you know, she says, Charlie, she knows something's up. She goes, Charlie, what's going on with you? He goes, I'm not doing well. That's all he said. He goes back home. I'm at El Pollo Loco with the kids and Donna, and I get a call. And he'd been calling me a couple of 3 times, and I said, I answered it finally. He goes, where the fuck have you been? I'm trying to fucking get a hold of you. And I said, and usually when he's like that, he's lit. He's at a pitch. I'm like, okay, here we go. And I said, I'm sorry, Dad. I said, I was with the kids. I said, is everything okay? And he goes, yeah, I'm just trying to get a hold of you. And I said, oh, all right, cool. He goes, what's going on? He goes, yeah, I just wanted to tell you, I just wanted to thank you for, I had a great time. And I said, great, Dad, I'm glad you did. And he goes, I just want to tell you, and every time I say this, to this day, he goes, I just want to tell you, you took off 10 years of my life. He goes, wait a minute. No, scratch that. I mean it different. You added 10 years to my life. And I said, great. I'm glad, Dad. Come out anytime. He says, yeah, I was thinking maybe come out in March. I'm gonna bring your stepmother, which I was like, oh, okay, so guess that's gotta go. Well, fine. Gotta swallow that fucking pill.
Right.
But I said, okay, great. And unfortunately, I hung up the phone and I looked at Donna and I said to her, she goes, what's going on? She says, are you your dad? And I said, yeah. She goes, is everything all right? I said, yeah. I said, what did he say? He said, he told me I added 10 years to his life. And she's, that's sweet, honey. That's great. And I went, son of a bitch better not die on me. 6 months later, he was gone.
Wow.
He had lesions on his liver. He was slowly bleeding out. Like with that cirrhosis, your tissues inside, one little bump, scrape, cut right into the lining of his stomach, which was like tissue paper.
Yeah, alcohol. Look, I always say that myself, obviously being mentally ill, bipolar, depression, anxiety. If I had added drinking to that equation, there's no way I would be here.
Yeah.
That's just it's already hard enough to add drugs or alcohol. Alcohol's a motherfucker, man. And I'll say motherfucker, and I don't usually say that word on camera, but I say it because it's just really, and we won't get into this, but we'll just touch on it because we both loved Tyler, Christopher.
Yeah.
And I wasn't there for all that went on in the years prior. I wasn't even that close to Tyler.
Right.
I truly wasn't.
Yeah.
You were.
I saw, I saw all of it.
Yes, I wasn't. So I came in like a couple years before he died. So it was maybe even a year that I got close with him the last year. Yeah. But I saw what alcohol and bipolar or mental illness combined does. Yeah. It's a son of a bitch.
Yeah. Specifically, I remember, like you say, I was close with Tyler. And I was always, because we're both, same age. We're 10 years apart between us, So I was like the elder statesman whenever we'd go out, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not a big drinker, clearly, but it's not necessarily because it used to be a choice, but now it's just like, I'm not into it.
Yeah.
I never have been. And Tyler, I always used to watch.
How much
he could put away and just be sort of even. And the term that everybody used was, he's always in Thailand. Like Tyler was of a different mind, right? Yeah. He was this sort of, and I kind of, part of me was like, yeah?
Yeah.
Or is he just drunk? I'm like, but then even I looked at it, knowing what it looks like, and said, maybe. But where it started to change, and I think a lot of us started to see, but not know how to broach that subject. I remember being in a dressing room with Tyler, and he was so distraught. It was beyond just drinking. He was so distraught, he could not stop crying. And he had to go up on set. His tears were streaming down his face. And they were so much so that it was red and raw. And he couldn't get a hold of it. And I forget what was in life was going on for him at the time. I think he was involved in breakup.
Yeah,
it was a relationship or what have you. But that was, he was so distraught.
But Rick, this has been an incredible conversation in a lot of ways. Father, divorce, all that. It's great. Now we're getting into some mental illness with drinking, a lot of drink. And as you were saying something earlier, I thought, damn, what I go through with anxiety is kind of like what alcoholism is.
Yeah.
Because just what you just said.
Right.
If I'm in this, like I was, let's say 4 months ago,
Yes.
I'm crying uncontrollably.
Right. It just keeps coming.
Now, I don't drink.
Yeah.
I can't imagine add that to it.
But that's the medication.
Yes.
That's the medication no matter. It's not the drink itself. That's the disease. It's what's going on in you at that time.
Right.
And it can be sometimes undiagnosed.
Right.
Bipolar disorder,
Right.
manic depression, whatever it may be, chronic depression, whatever.
Yeah.
But sometimes it can be, let's call it a layperson's depression, right?
Yeah.
It's just shit that you are not realizing in yourself. Right?
Yeah.
And I've unfortunately, I feel like I've got my father and then I have my stepfather.
Oh.
That situation. And you talk about how if you had added alcohol to mental illness, right? That's a time bomb.
Time bomb.
But oftentimes, I think people who are walking through life and can't deal with things, or we have all of our coping mechanisms, how we get through, right? It's like, oh no, I can't deal with that right now because it's too much. I can't let somebody see that.
Yeah.
All of it, just genuinely your day to day.
Yeah.
When that stacks up to a point and something happens in you, whatever it is, it could be a physical thing. My stepfather, that's what happened. He had a scare, he had a physical scare, a health scare, should I say. Turned out to be nothing, but it was enough that it, as I say, popped the cork on a champagne bottle that you shook for 40 years.
Yeah, wow.
And it never stopped.
Wow.
It never fucking stopped. And it pushed him.
And Rick, that's one of the things I want to say.
Yeah.
Because now that we're talking about it, I might as well get into it. Then we'll wrap it up with some soap stuff,
Sure.
Some fun soap stuff.
Oh, yeah, we know.
So I went to my therapist today, okay? Because I've been
And good for you, too.
Thank God.
When we first met, you would kind of,
I just did.
today, I don't have to take it. You'd do the negotiation.
Right.
I remember that very.
My acting coach Howard Fine used to say, Maurice, you were ignorantly arrogant. So I didn't go to, and I've been telling people to go to therapy, obviously, because it is important, but I haven't really gone, and there's a lot of things I haven't done, and that's the reason I just had this other trauma that happened 4 months ago, whatever it is. So I said to her today, I said, isn't this stuff like bipolar is the father? And, for me, bipolar hasn't come to me in 31 years because the medication has worked for me, lithium.
Right.
But then you have cousins. Like...
You got branch offs. You're just like, oh, you're third removed. You're coming to play with me now, you mother.
Right. You got like two cousins, right? One's named Fred. That's Depression Fred.
Okay.
Now, Depression Fred, he visited me for a long time early on. He hasn't. I haven't seen him in 10 years.
Hey, what are you doing? Fantastic.
And
Good
then
to see you.
you have anxiety, John.
Yeah.
Which does not stop bothering me. I don't want him in my house.
Right.
I can't no more.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
but why is this going on? Well, because I have not done what's needed to be done.
Yeah.
Meditation, yoga, eating, working out, therapy, a psychiatrist.
Right.
If you need medication,
Yes.
like you don't, if you have to, everything has to stay in first, second, and third gear. You're going to be fine there. You can get some anxiety like I've had and you get through it. Do not let it go to fifth or sixth gear because you're fucked.
Right.
And how do you do that? Well, you prevent fifth and sixth by doing what needs to be done.
Right, right.
And that is what I just said.
Because it snowballs like everything.
Yes, because once you hit, like I've just hit, fifth and sixth, you can't come back.
Right, right.
You got to go, doctor.
Yeah.
I need some.
And there's consequences at the very end as
yes.
well.
And I didn't go to work for 2 weeks.
Right.
That's never happened to me.
Right. But if you know what that end game is going to be, that's what keeps you in first, second, and third, and fourth gear.
Somebody asked me, what you just said, what keeps me from doing that? Fear of that happening again.
Yep.
Scares the
That's
hell.
when fear works.
That's when fear works. Because this was somebody I had a state of mind. He said, well, you're not really supposed to be living life with fear, but in this situation, I can see where it helps you.
Well, I almost want to flip the wording from fear to consciousness, right? To awareness.
I understand. Yeah.
You know, that's why like having certain things around you, right? Whatever your surroundings are, if it's a word, if it's an image, that reminds you of that.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Right. People have certain words that are triggers for them that help them, if it's motivating.
A song.
Right. Whatever. So, yeah.
All right. I think we've done the mental health part of state of mind.
Sure.
Now we're going to get into some soap stuff.
Uh-oh.
Okay. First of all, I want to say this. I don't know if I ever told Rick this. I was sitting watching TV one night, and this guy named Rick HEARST won an Emmy. And I thought to myself, damn, because I saw the little clip. I didn't know his work, but I saw the little clip. I said, okay, so now this guy's good looking and can act like that, and he just won an Emmy. And I thought, wow, I'd like to work with him.
When was this?
Swear to God.
91?
Yeah.
You son of a bitch.
I swear to God, I was
You
watching.
never fucking
No,
told
I never
me this?
told you. No, because you have to understand something. I've changed. And back then, I was too proud or whatever.
Of course.
Whatever that is.
We're young.
But I am
young.
telling you the truth. I watched it. I watched the clip. Yeah. You had black hair. It was kind of over here. Yeah. You had a cool suit on. You were kind of this. And your speech.
Semi-mullet.
Yeah, your speech was kind of hyper.
Super hyper.
Yeah.
My kid was born 22 hours prior.
So, so, we work together. We can get into the storyline that I had with Rick where Sonny was off medication. And I don't know if he knows, or maybe you could. I always like to do this with people I've worked with on certain storylines that have to do with mental health.
Yeah.
Just because I want to see what they saw. And a lot of times they don't see anything. So it's all in my mind.
Yeah.
How bad I look or whatever. And you as an audience out there should know that probably you're seeing it worse than what they're really seeing. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if you know, but at the end of that storyline, I heard my mom and dad talking to me on the set. And I said, oh, okay, I'm lost a little bit here. And then I went home that weekend and had my first anxiety. I didn't know what it was. I thought I was having a breakdown. Oh. I'm like, Paula. She goes, honey, what? Everything, dude. Just scared, panic.
Yeah, I've had them.
And I'm like, she goes, what's wrong? I said, I think I'm having a breakdown. She goes, honey, it's probably just anxiety. Because I was going to fly to New York to Washington. One of the only things I haven't done that are my goals to speak in front of Congress.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I was going to go. And then I had this thing and I didn't go.
Yeah.
But so happens, like it always happens on GH, I go to GH and Sonny's having therapy.
Of course. Isn't that nice? We get paid to work our shit out.
I'm like, this fucking, and she doesn't.
You did extraordinary. Yeah, thank you. Wow.
Right. Exactly.
It's
Like she didn't know that I was really messed up, right?
Sure.
So what you didn't, what were you?
So, look, the one thing I've always known and respected about you is the level of commitment and intensity that you always bring regardless. And beyond that, you're as you approach each day, whether you're like, I'm not so into this or not, you're like, I'm just going to find the reality in wherever it is. And I've always respected, and that's the one thing that, you say compliments and what, that's the one thing that I always gleaned off of you.
Yeah.
Is because I'm a super prepared guy. I'm like a machine. I'm like diligent about making sure I can do that so it can fly.
Yeah.
So, and you just kind of like, I got to throw caution to the wind and just go into it and let's see what we find. So in somewhere we were always able to meet in the middle.
Yeah.
So in that, I never, for the majority of that, I always kind of thought you were just like, it was a personal thing to you, so you were super committed. I will say there were times, and it was one of those very elongated moments where I looked in your eyes and they were black.
Yeah, the black.
And I was like, oh boy. And for me, I had gone, not to get into another whole story, but I had kind of experienced that with another actor back when I was on Guiding Light.
Is that the guy who killed himself?
No, thankfully he's still alive. No, but he had a breakdown on set, like during scenes, and like it was a whole thing. But that's a conversation for another time. But I recognized it. So when I saw it, I was like, it's all about keep the balance. It's all good. It's like if you equate it to something else, like if you're somebody who's ever done, mushrooms, college, back a long time ago, and you need somebody to be that anchor for you, so you don't tip one way or the other.
Yeah.
You can't pull them out of it, but you just need to kind of keep them where they are so it doesn't go further, right?
Yeah.
So I saw Fifth, Sixth Gear a couple of times.
Yeah.
But the depths and to the extremes where you were genuinely feeling it, obviously that's not something that I thought that I could feel from you. It was just, I guess it made me even more within the scene, more in tune with you. So that it was that balancing point of playing the scene, playing what comes next, but also being there for your partner, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And that much was something that I was very.
And at that time, we were doing so much at one, and there was no better brother relationship, I think, on daytime than us. I mean, because we just look. People always say to me, "You guys look like brothers."
Yeah.
And then the acting's, it's our acting is somewhat similar but different. I don't know.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. Well, like I just said, it's very different. Like we enjoy when we get in there and chew it up.
Yeah.
Like our first time when I first came back, I was so looking forward to that. And I remember Frank came down and he was like, "Yeah, it was kind of sloppy, but it just was."
Oh,
like
Rick,
it flipped.
that day too, the day that we first did it, that was coming off of what went down.
Oh God.
And I was scared, dude. I can still act, bro, but I'm scared.
Oh, how funny.
And then I'm like, oh, damn it, it's got to be Rick.
Yeah, but that's always, you know what? Most of the times when we would do scenes, I would want, I keep that governor on myself, or I have kept that governor on myself, where it's like, I push myself because, okay, I've gotten to this level and now I got to go this much further.
Yeah.
And this is my, so I was almost pushing myself beyond instead of just,
I understand, yeah.
just relaxing and just going into that's age now, so.
In anything you're feeling, whether it be for me coming off of what happened and being a little fragile and having to work with Rick, who's going to push me. Everything that you do that in those circumstances should be take a breath and relax.
Yeah.
And then it'll all come. It's the people that tend to,
Yeah.
you got to stay calm,
Yeah.
and then have it. And that's what I was doing.
Because you don't know what might come out of it.
Exactly. That's what I was doing with you.
Surprise.
I would breathe, and sometimes I'd go on the side and just go.
Well, I know the one moment you're like, oh, you're like, oh, is this about, oh, I wasn't good, like, and then you literally flipped on a dime and leaned into me. You really want to talk about it? It's like, that's when you go, oh, our hands going. He's not going to throw hands on me, is he? Oh, Jesus Christ. But it's always great.
But it's great to have you back on GH.
Oh, it's great to be.
And people love you, and everybody loves you. So I think we've. Oh, you're part of the
sponsorship now. We have to talk about.
You're part of the part. You're part of the Patty Hearst family, aren't you?
No terrorism in my family. Thank Christ. No. Or money, or terrible Herbst, which is my
or
legal
kidnapping,
name,
right?
All these like iconic people that have tons of money. It's like not connected to it. No,
Yeah, no.
not at all. No, but I used to get that when I first changed my name, which my grandmother wasn't very happy about.
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. When I was on Guiding Light and Becky started, first started on GH. Yeah, my grandmother was looking at soap rag. She's opening it. She goes, well, this hasn't hurt this girl any. I said, what? She turns around, shows me Rebecca Herbst joins General Hospital. And I was like, if I ever meet this girl, first day, first person, who do I meet? After my grandmother passed away a month prior. I was like, really?
Wow.
Yeah. And Beck and I also kind of went back and forth and was like, look, no familial relation, right? We're not cousins somewhere that this is going to get weird.
But I think she spells her name different, no?
So Hearst is professional name, Hearst.
Right.
My legal name is Herbst, Herbst. That was the real sign language. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. That is very interesting. Yeah. All right, listen. I'm going to talk to the audience while you listen.
Okay.
And kiss your ass a little more, and then we'll end this.
That'll be nice.
All right, so Rick came in, and usually with these things, it's nothing scripted, so I just say whatever comes to mind. I guess I felt like this state of mind was going to be exactly the way it is, because once Rick and I get into it, it's like playing ping pong, and, hit the ball back, he hits me, hits the ball back, hits me. But one thing that is good about Rick is I never think he's bullshitting, and he's always kind of he's a very good storyteller, which is what you need as an actor and is what you need in interviews. And I've done many, and it doesn't. I mean, it's not that it's not going to be good. It's just the better the storyteller, the easier it is for me to sit and listen. So anyway, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me, brother.
And
I love you.
I love you too, man. It was like two buddies bullshitting.
That's the way it should be.
All right. Thank you, man.
You got it.
State of Mind. All right. This is State of Mind. If you like what you see, you hit this little button right here. It says subscribe. Beep, beep. And yes, it's of course, we're doing great, and I appreciate it. Thanks to y'all. So this Sunday is on State of Mind is Jonathan Jackson. Jonathan Jackson is, he's done it all, right? He's got about 17 Emmys. No, I'm just kidding. He's got a great wife, Lisa Vitaggio, who used to play Hannah Scott on General Hospital. And he's got a great family. He's just, acting-wise, he did Nashville, Insomnia with Al Pacino, and a bunch of other stuff we don't need to get into now. But let me just say how his His state of mind was. It was like a spiritual awakening. This space, and I'm not just joking. I'm telling you, because I thank him for something he did, and he appreciates it, and we get into some real deep kind of. You can feel the energy in the room. That's what I said to him. So I hope you guys enjoy it as much as I did. I believe you will. And that's all I got to say, people. State of Mind Sunday. Check it out. Okay, bye.